Hi, good day. This is Miss LM and we're back again for another math video, and today we're going to talk about domain and range. I know I have already given you the definition of these two terms, but in this video I will give you some more information about domain and range. So we all know that domain is a set of abscissa or x values, and they are also known as the independent variables or the input values, while the range is a set of ordinate or y values. They are the dependent variables that depends on the independent variables, which are the domain. And we also know that this is the output. Okay, now let's have some more examples about domain and range. Let's determine the domain and range of the given relation here. So first we have here this mapping diagram, negative 2, 1, 5, and 3 for the x elements, and then 2, negative 4, 1, negative 2, and 3 for the y elements. So we're going to write the input values and then the output values. Then we're going to write also the domain and range. For the input values, again, they are the x elements. So we have negative 2, we also have 1, 5, and 3. For the output values, we have 2, negative 4, 1, negative 2, and negative 3. For the domain, remember, this is the set of all possible x values. So that means, ito po yon yung input values natin. And pag sinabi pong set, we have to enclose that in braces, separated by comma. We can also write our input values or the domain into least to greatest form. Okay? So start with negative 2, then followed by 1, and then 3, and then 5. So this is our domain now. Again, set of all input values or set of all x values. Now for the range, again, this is a set. So enclose in braces. Then write it from least to greatest, starting with negative 4, followed by negative 3, negative 2, 1, and 2. So now this is the range of the given relation here. Another mapping diagram, we have here 5 and negative 3 for x elements, and then for y, we have 4, negative 4, 1, and negative 2. Again, input values are 5 and negative 3. For the output values, we have 4, negative 4, 1, and negative 2. As the domain, again, this is a set of all x values, set and close it in braces. Then we have negative 3 and then 5. For the range, set of y values. So starting with negative 4, followed by negative 2, 1, and 4. Now this is the range. Okay, another. We have here a listing method of relation 2 and 4, 2 and 5, 2 and 6, and 2 and 7. So for the input values, what are the x elements? 2, 2, 2, 2. Puro 2 siya. And if that's the case, isang beses lang natin siya isusulat. Okay? And then for the output values, we have 4, 5, 6, and 7. So now for the domain, again, this is a set, enclose it in braces, then write set input values or x values. For the range, the set of all y values arranged from least to greatest. So 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay? Next, we have 0 and 0, 3 and negative 1, negative 5 and negative 5, 4 and 0. So input values are, what are the x values? 0, 3, negative 5, and 4. Then for the output values, we have 0, negative 1, negative 5, and again, this is 0. So, meron na tayong 0 sa unahan. We don't need to write it again. For the domain, this is the set of all the x values or input values written from least to greatest. So, negative 5, 0, then 3, 4. For the range, 0, negative 1, and then negative 5. So, we are going to start with negative 5, negative 1, and 0, enclosed in braces. So this is for the second set of our example here. Another. Now we have the table form of our relation. X, we have 3, 3, 3, 3, and y is 5, negative 2, 1, negative 3. If we're going to write the input values, so repeating lang naman po yung 3, nag-iisa lang po ulit ng ating input value or ang ating x element. For the output values, 5, negative 2, 1, negative 3. And again, for domain, this is the set of all input values and nag-iisa lang siya. So, enclose pa rin natin siya sa braces. Same as dito sa range. Set of all output values, rewrite it in least to greatest form, starting with negative 3, negative 2, 1, and then 5, enclosed in braces. Okay, another, we have here x elements are 0, 4, 7, 6, and then for the y elements, we have here 1, 1, 1, 1. Again, for the input values, write it 0, 4, 7, and 6. Output values, paulit-ulit lang po yung 1, so isang beses lang natin siya isusulat. Then for the domain, write it as a set. Pag sinabi pong set, enclose in braces. So kapag hindi nyo po yan in-enclose sa braces, ibig sabihin, you're not writing it properly, okay? So, 0, 4, 6, and 7. Then for the range, nag-iisa lang siya, but still you have to enclose it in braces. So, the range or the set of output values for this example is 1 only. So, next example, we have here f of x is equals to 5 over x, and this is in the form of functional notation or rule method. And we are the one who are going to give the input values and then solve for the output values. So, for example, our input values are negative 10, negative 5, 1, 5, and 10. So, what will be our output values? 5 all over negative 10, that will be negative 1 half, because 5 over 10 can be simplified as 1 half. Next, 5 all over negative 5, that will be negative 1, because 5 divided by negative 5 is negative 1. Next, 5 divided by 1, that is 5. And then 5 divided by 5 is 1. And then again, 5 all over 10. So that is 1 half, but now it is positive. Now we're going to write the domain. Again, it is the set of all x values. Negative 10, negative 5, 1, 5, and 10. And then for the range, we have negative 1 half, negative 1, 5, 1, and 1 half. So that's what we're going to do if we have this form of relation given. Another example, we have here f of x is equals to x squared minus 1, or y is equals to x squared minus 1. What will be our input values? Again, it depends on what you are going to put in the input values, and then output values depends on the input values. So, for example, we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So, the output will be 1 squared minus 1, so that is 1 minus 1, which is equals to 0. Next, 2 squared minus 1. So 2 times 2 is 4 minus 1, that is equals to 3. And then another, 3 squared, that is 3 times 3, which is 9. 9 minus 1, that is equals to 8. Another is 4 squared, that is 16, minus 1, that is 15. Then the last one, 5 squared, that is 25, minus 1 is 24. Now we're going to write the domain. That will be the set of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, you can put any input value here. Then for the range, we have 0, 3, 8, 15, and 24. Okay, since we can put any value of x, that means we can also write the domain is the set of x such that the x are element of real number. Any real number will do. Then for the range, that will be y. It's also an element of real number, but we have to say that y is equals to 5 over x, because that's the rule that we have here for this relation. Also here on our second relation given, x can be any element of the real number, while the range also element of real number siya, but the y is equals to x squared minus 1. Okay, so you have to remember that. Another examples, we have this graph here, and again we have to determine the input values and the domain, then we have the output values and then the range. For the input values, we have to look on our x-axis where the points are located. Also for the output values, we have to look at our y-axis where the points are located. So first, dun muna tayo sa input values. Yung mga points ba natin, saan siya sa x nakatapat? So the first is on negative 2. And as you can see, dun sa negative 2, meron tayong tatlong points na nakatapat doon. So 1, 2, 3. So no need na to rewrite negative 2 3 times. Okay? So isa na lang. Another, we have positive 1. Here it is. And then next is positive 2. So katapat siya nitong point na to. Then the last is we have positive 4. Then for the domain, write it and close in braces, starting with the least value up to the greatest value. Negative 2, 1, 2, and 4. Another, for the output values, now we're going to look on our y-axis. So starting from the least, we have here negative 4. Dalawa po yung point na nasa negative 4, but still, we have to write our output value one time only, negative 4. Next, we have here 0. Another is, so ito naman po yung katapat ng point na yon. We have positive 1. Next, we have here positive 3. Then the last one is at positive 4. And if you're going to write the range, set siya again and close in braces, separated by comma, least to greatest. Negative 4, 0, 1, 3, and then 4. So this is how we look for the domain and range of a relation in the graphical form. So in this case kasi, point yung ating given. But what if we have a graph of a line as a relation or function? How are we going to determine the domain and range? So there are a few things that we have to remember for these examples. Okay? So since domain is the set of all x values, we're going to describe how our graph of the line behaves horizontally. Bakit horizontally? Kasi horizontal po yung ating x-axis. So, starting from the point where the line started up to where it ends, so yun po yung ating i-describe for the domain. Horizontally po, okay? Then for the range, since this is the set of all y values, we're going to describe how our graph behaves vertically naman po, upward naman. So, starting po ulit kung saan nag-umpisa yung line, papataas naman siya. Another thing that you have to consider is yung kind po nung end point nung ating line. In this case, kung mapapansin nyo po, closed siya or point talaga siya. Hindi siya yung kagaya nitong isa na open. So again, this is closed point. This is how we call this. While here, we have an open point. So kapag po may closed point na kagaya nito, ibig sabihin po nito ay included yung negative 3 natin dun sa ating domain at dun sa ating range. Yung x-axis na tinatapatan ng point na yun is included. Also, in this one, positive 3 of x and positive 3 of y is included on our domain and range. Okay? Kapag po closed point. Kapag naman kagaya nitong open point, that means yung point na tinatapatan nito is hindi kasama dun sa ating domain or dun sa ating range. Okay? So, how are we going to write the domain and range for these examples? Since this is a graph of a line, hindi po natin pwedeng gamitin yung listing method. Why? Because hindi naman po ilang points lang yung pinapadescribe sa atin, kundi yung line mismo. And as you can see, dun sa line, it consists many points. Dahil maraming points itong line na to, kahit yung 2.99 na yan, kasama yan. Eh, pag nilista po natin yun, abutin na tayo ng sunod na Pasko. Okay? So, in that case, we're going to write the domain and range in linear inequality or interval form. So, what do you mean by linear inequality? So, ibig sabihin po nun, gagamit tayo ng ating inequality symbols, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. And since included nga po yung ating point dito sa ating mga endpoints ng line, ibig sabihin, we're going to use the greater than or equal to and less than or equal to. Okay? How are we going to write the linear inequality for the domain? Again, x po yun, x. And then, x is greater than negative 3. Di ba po? Mas malaki siya sa negative 3. Papunta siya dito sa kanan. So, greater than negative 3. X is greater than or equal to negative 3. And it is less than or equal to positive 3. Again, kasama po si positive 3 at si negative 3 dun sa points na dinidescribe natin sa domain. And we write less than or equal to, but we read it here as x is greater than or equal to negative 3, but less than or equal to positive 3. So, this is the linear inequality for the domain. And then for the range, how are we going to describe the behavior of the line vertically? It starts with negative 3 also and ends with positive 3. Included sila pareho. So, y is greater than or equal to negative 3 also and less than or equal to positive 3. Now, this is the linear inequality of the domain and the range. For the interval naman po, ano po ba yung interval notation? Okay, so this means we're going to write the point where it started and where it ended. So again, we have negative 3 and then 3. And since included po yung points na yon dito sa ating x, again, x po yung dinidescribe ko for the domain, included si negative 3 and also included si positive 3. So, gagamitin natin ay ang bracket on both ends. Also, dito sa range, since included po si negative 3 and si positive 3, bracket din po yung gagamitin natin. Okay? So, that's for this graph. Another, ito naman po sa ating graph na ito. So, also, the behavior of our line horizontally on x-axis. So, yung line natin nag-start sa negative 3, nag-end kay positive 3. And since ito po ay open point, ibig sabihin, positive 3 is not included. Okay? That means, we're going to write our inequality as x is greater than or equal to negative 3, equal to, kasi kasama pa rin si negative 3, but it is less than 3. So, wala na tayong or equal to, kasi hindi na nga po included yung ating positive 3. Dito naman po sa range, again, the behavior of the line vertically. So, it starts with negative 3 and ended at positive 3. And again, open point siya. So, hindi po included si positive 3. Kaya po, we're going to write the inequality as y is greater than or equal to negative 3. May or equal to kasi kasama siya. But it is less than 3. Di po kasama yung 3 dun sa y value. And for the interval notation, so kung kanina, parehong bracket yung gagamitin natin. In this case, so it starts with negative 3 ended at positive 3. Ang negative 3 po ay included. Okay? So, that's why we are going to use bracket. Paano naman po dun sa mga hindi na included? Kagaya nito, nagtatapos siya sa positive 3 pero hindi siya included. So, we are going to use parentheses. So, ngayon po, napaka-importante ng ating grouping symbol. Ano po? Yung parentheses, yung brackets, at yung braces. So, you have to remember when are we going to use those three grouping symbol. Okay? So, kapag po included, we're going to use the bracket. Kapag not included, if we have open point, we're going to use the parentheses. Yung braces, ginagamit natin dun sa set. Okay? So, for the range, kasama si negative 3. So, we're going to use the bracket, negative 3. Then, si positive 3, hindi siya included kasi open point po doon. So, parentheses lang siya. Again, this is the linear inequality for our example here. We read it as x is greater than or equal to negative 3, but less than 3. And also, we have here y is greater than or equal to negative 3 but less than 3. And this is how our interval notation looks like. Kapag bracket included, yun nandito sa ating pinaka-left na ito. Then kapag parentheses, hindi na po kasama yung ating positive 3. So let's have few more examples about this, determining the domain and range of a relation using a graphical form. Let's have another example here. So we have this graph where the endpoints are open points. So that means these points are not included on our domain and range, but we're going to write the domain and range for the following graph in linear inequality form or interval form. Okay, so for the domain, again, we are going to look on how our line behaves horizontally. It starts with negative 3, but negative 3 is not included, and ends with positive 3, and positive 3 is also not included. So we're going to write the inequality as x is greater than negative 3, but less than positive 3. Then for our interval, again, it starts with negative 3, but negative 3 is not included, so that will be a parenthesis, and then ends with positive 3, and again, positive 3 is not included, so parenthesis din po. Then for the range, so the vertical behavior of our line starts with negative 3 and ends with positive 3. But negative 3 is not included and positive 3 is also not included because the endpoints are open points. So we are going to write our range as y is greater than negative 3 but less than positive 3. Same as dun sa interval ng ating domain, hindi kasama si negative 3 at si positive 3. So parenthesis lang ang gagamitin natin. So negative 3 and positive 3. So for the next example, even though this is not a line, we can still write the domain and range for this graph. Okay? So for the domain, it starts with negative 3 and ends with positive 4. And again, tingnan natin yung endpoints nila. Yung ating starting point is open point while the endpoint is closed point. So, ibig sabihin, si negative 3, not included, but si positive 4 is included. So, how are we going to write the domain for this example? This means x is greater than negative 3, but less than or equal to positive 4. May or equal to na kasi kasama na si positive 4 sa ating domain. For its interval, again, starts with negative 3, but negative 3 is not included because of the open point, and ends with positive 4, and positive 4 is included kasi closed point yon. So, gagamit tayo ng bracket. For the range, we're going to look for the behavior of our graph vertically. So, kung titignan natin, it starts with negative 4. Negative 4 upward up to positive 4. Y is greater than or equal to negative 4 and less than or equal to positive 4. And also this one included siya. So kaya po ang atin pong interval form ay negative 4 and positive 4. Both of them are bracket. Okay? Okay, let's have another examples here. So for this graph, again, we have to describe the behavior of our graph horizontally for our x values and then vertically for our y values or the range. Now, as you can see here on our x-axis, we have here one of the endpoint as closed point, okay? And it is leading towards the negative x-axis. And since this is an arrow, it means it can extend up to infinity. So we don't know where will it end, okay? So starting from positive 5, which is positive 5 is included, papunta na siya sa negative values. So how are we going to write the linear inequality for the domain? So we can say that x is less than or equal to positive 5. Why? Because again, papunta siya sa negative, and we all know negative values ay mas maliit kaysa sa positive 5. And bakit may or equal to? Kasi po, closed point po yung point na nakatapat dito sa ating positive 5. For our interval notation for this graph, since we don't know kung saan papunta siya sa negative values natin, we can say that we have here negative infinity. And it ends with positive 5. Positive 5 is included, and since we don't know where it ends at our negative infinity, so we are going to use a parenthesis. Again, pag may infinity tayo, parenthesis po, and then pag closed point, bracket po. For the range, now, how are we going to describe the range? So, instead na upward tayo, since papunta po sa baba yung ating graph, andun yung arrow, magda-downward din po tayo. Kagaya dun sa ating domain, naging to the left po yung ating description. Now, kung downward tayo, nag-start siya sa positive 3. And closed point po ito, so included po ulit si positive 3. And pababa po tayo, and we don't know kung saan sa negative y values mag-e-end yung ating graph. So we can describe our range as y is less than or equal to positive 3. So, or equal to ulit siya kasi nga po closed point, doon magi-start, and pababa siya ng pababa hanggang sa hindi natin malaan kung saan siya papunta kasi nga negative infinity po yung ating y value kasi arrow po yung meron tayo dun sa kabilang endpoint. Now, to write our interval notation for this example, again, negative infinity po, papunta dun sa ating positive 3. Dun siya magtatapos. And again, siya po ay included, kaya po siya ay naka-bracket. Then for the negative infinity, yun po ay parenthesis. So this is for our graph here. And then for this graph, so again, to get the domain, we have to describe the behavior of our graph horizontally. And then for the range, we have to describe the behavior of our graph vertically. So for the domain here, it starts with negative 5. And this is a closed point, so included sa negative 5. And kung titignan natin yung graph natin, may arrow po ulit tayo doon. And kung arrow po yan, ibig sabihin, we don't know where will it ends, okay? So, the domain will start at negative 5, so we can describe that as x is greater than or equal to negative 5. Okay? So, mas malaki siya sa negative 5 and negative 5 is still included. Now, for the interval notation, included po si negative 5. So, we're going to use the bracket. And again, dahil arrow po yan, we don't know kung saan sa positive x values magtatapos yung ating graph. So, this is positive infinity and naka-parenthesis po yung ating pang-close doon. Okay? So, for the range, vertical behavior of the graph starts with negative 4 and this is a closed point po ulit. So, included si negative 4 papataas. And again, ang ating graph po ay mayroong arrow dun sa another endpoint, and dahil po meron tayong arrow dun sa ating isang endpoint na yon, ibig sabihin continuous po siya ulit upwards. So that means our range can be described as y is greater than or equal to negative 4. It starts with negative 4 and ends up to positive y infinity. So to write the interval notation for the range of this graph, we're going to start with negative 4, included po siya, kaya po tayo naka-bracket, and ends with positive infinity. We don't know where will it ends. So, use a parenthesis. Now, for our last example, we have here this graph. How are we going to describe this? So, same as dun sa kanina natin. Nag-start siya dito sa ating positive 4, but in this case, open point po ito, and open point means hindi included si positive 4. Then, kung titingnan natin yung graph natin from left to right or right to left, papunta ulit siya downward. And dahil yan po ang trajectory niyan, continuous yan, so we don't know kung hanggang saan sa negative values dito sa x magtatapos yung ating graph. So, start siya sa positive 4, but positive 4 is not included, so we can write the domain as x is less than positive 4. So, pababaan kasi negative values po papunta yung graph natin. So, for the interval notation, we all know that it has positive 4, but positive 4 is not included, and we don't know where it is going at our negative x value. So we can write it as negative infinity again and hanggang dun sa positive 4. At dahil nga po ang positive 4 ay hindi included, so parenthesis lang. And dahil ito infinity, parenthesis din lang. Same as dun sa range. So dun naman tayo sa y, vertical behavior. Meron tayong katapat ng point which is 3 and open siya. Dahil open siya, ibig sabihin positive 3 is not included. And downward po siya dahil dun papunta yung graph natin. So that means our y is the set of all y values starting from 3 pababa. So y is less than positive 3. So yung positive 3 na yon ay open point. So, hindi siya included. Kaya po, less than lang yung gagamitin natin. Walang or equal to. Same as dito. Interval notation, doon meron tayong positive 3 pero hindi siya included. Parenthesis po. Then, para naman po doon sa negative y value, again, infinity po siya. Hindi natin alam. So, negative infinity po ulit. And parenthesis din po ang ginagamit natin doon. Okay. So, that ends our video for this lesson, domain and range. Again, domain is the set of all x values while the range is the set of all y values. And there are different ways on how we can write domain and range when it comes to the graph of a relation or a function. So make sure to remember those important points on how we are going to write the domain and range of a graphical form of a linear function or relation. So that's all. Thank you, and don't forget to subscribe, to like this video, and to share this. Bye-bye. God bless. Keep safe.